Hey guys, Hannah Bell, family lawyer, back with the Family Law 101. Time to keep moving on through the basics. Even as I say basics, I'm like, oh, some of this isn't that basic. If you remember, you're like watching these videos in a row. Last time we did inventory and appraisement, where you get that spreadsheet together, you're hoping to like informally resolve things and just do that. But let's say that doesn't work out and you're not taking that route. The next phase likely could be, might be, should be, would be discovery. And that word to some people is like, gives you the ooga boogas. And rightfully so, because when you hear people talk about how much they hate lawyers, they hate lawsuits, they're the worst thing ever, probably they're talking mostly about or remembering the discovery phase. And there's probably a couple reasons. Number one, it's expensive. Number two, it's invasive. Number three, it's a pain. Okay, so that's kind of the bad news up front. But there is a positive. The whole point of discovery, the discovery process, is to discover information about the other side's case and to develop your own case. So if your case is getting to this point, or your lawyer saying, hey, you need to do some discovery, or hey, we've been served with discovery, meaning the other side issued discovery to you, then you're going to have to do it. And I thought a video would be helpful just to talk in general about discovery, and then we could break down each of the pieces. So there are sets of requests for documents and information that are typed up, they're written, they're in a PDF, and they come to the lawyer, usually via email or the mail, I guess, or sometimes people fax it still, like what, but anyway. And that's called service. So discovery gets served to you, or you serve it to someone else, requesting documents or information. There's depositions are within discovery too, but that's sort of to me, it always feels a little bit different. But there too, you try to discover information. And the thing, when you first read those requests, I'm going to say all the names in a row, and then we can do a little video about each. But there's requests for disclosure, or an RFD, your lawyer will call it. Request for admission, an RFA. Interrogatories, or ROGS. that one always kind of makes me laugh. Request for production, RFPs. And then there are subpoenas. So you've like seen that on TV, right? Where you subpoena documents or information from people who aren't a part of a lawsuit, because that's technically within discovery. So that's a little bit of a different one. To people who aren't involved in the lawsuit, you have to subpoena, like have a paper sort of with the approval of the court to go to this person to give you stuff. And then depos. So the first part of what I'm talking about, RFD, RFA, ROGS, RFP, that's usually a set of documents that kind of go all at once. So they'll kind of come at you at once. Not everybody does RFAs, but the rest pretty much, if you're going to do one, you do the rest. And different lawyers have different theories on how and how in depth and what they do. Generally speaking, though, and I can tell you this from personal experience, when you read those requests for the first time, they're going to make you angry. And, you may think things like, none of your business. I don't have to tell you that. You're invading my privacy. How rude. And you'd be right and wrong. They're certainly invading your privacy. But when you got involved in a divorce or a custody lawsuit, your privacy is like a little birdie. And it just flew out the window. Because you can discover, ask for, seek anything that is relevant or could likely lead to the discovery of admissible evidence. So that's real broad when you're talking about your kids and your money. I mean, what doesn't touch it? Your work, your texts, your Snapchats, your Instagram, every little nook and cranny is really kind of up for grabs. Your medical records. So those times you visited with the counselor, I hate this part, but it's just a fact to be aware of, that they can get at those medical records. It's like kind of harder, but it's a thing, because your mental health likely is an issue in a divorce or custody case involving kids. Not so much necessarily in just divorce, but if yours involves kids, we're talking about that. So it is invasive. It is not fun. And if you're not one of these people who's like super duper organized, there's some people who have like a file folder for everything, and they use a label maker, and they're like month and date of all my statements and all my tax returns and whatever. If you're like the rest of us who know where that stuff is kind of, or could get it on the computer, you're going to find this phase to require a lot of work. It just sucks. I mean, there's no other way to say it. So just kind of roll up your sleeves, make a pot of coffee, set aside a few weekends to just dive through it. Okay. There's no over or under, only through. Like, you just have to do it. And the more organized you are in your information, your answers, your documents, the more money you're going to save, because your lawyer doesn't have to do all that for you. Sometimes it'll just be, people be like, here, like, I don't know, just do what you can. Well, that costs a lot more than, hey, here are all these file folders. Here it is, super organized. Thank you, Hannah, way to go. So this piece, even just talking about it, there's a lot to it. Because these requests that got served, your lawyer then has to respond line by line to their requests with either an answer or answers and or objections to the request. Like, that's not relevant, that's outside the time period, etc. So that process, just the legal part of it, is quite involved. And then your piece of it is really, you have to do more. And then once you give the documents or the stuff, the answers to your lawyer, they have to work with them, massage them, prep them, redact things, get them in PDF, get them ready, Bates label to produce. Okay, it's a lot. So I explain all that just to say, because usually people underestimate what it's like. Oh, they just ask, here's some bank statements. I mean, what else do you have to do? There's a lot that people have to do. And you really want to be on top of this, because once you're invited to this rodeo of discovery, you really don't have a way to get out of it except for settlement. Because once these requests are served on you, you have 30 days to respond and to produce documents, which sounds like 30 days. I could do basically whatever in 30 days. It goes by real fast, because you won't even think it's a big deal till like 2 weeks in. And then it's basically a scramble no matter what you try to do or we try to do almost every time. So be the exception, like be super on top of it, save yourself money, and just keep in mind that if you get to this phase, it is going to be expensive. You need to think about resources and how to cover that, and take that into consideration when you're considering settling, right? Like just the cost, expense, and headache. And especially, we'll talk about this a little more in the more specific ones, but if you've got some gunk in the corners that you don't really want to show to the universe in your case, you got to think hard about it. But like, the good part is you get the same stuff so I'm talking about the negative for you. The positive for you is you get the same stuff from the other side. Okay. If you think they've been hiding money in bank accounts wherever, then they have a duty under the rules, which whether they do it or not is a whole different thing. But let's say they're rule following and their lawyer's good and they do what they're supposed to do, to provide all of that information to you. They give you text messages. They give you their mental health records. You have access to that as well. And you find out all kind of things when you do it. So there's a real benefit at the end of the road to doing discovery, but there is a lot to it. So just know that going in, it's expensive and cumbersome and kind of a pain in the butt, but the benefit of it is you can learn a lot, and it's just sort of one of the unavoidable things. So in our next little bit, let's work through each one of the different types and talk about what those are and how you can do it. But just keep in mind when you read them, like, don't freak out. Take a deep breath. Know that everybody at this phase in their lawsuits of a divorce or custody is going through the same thing. You can do it. Just stay on top and be organized. So take care. Hope everybody's having a great week and staying well out there.